Australia is one of the world's largest beef exporters. On the global map, Australia does not have the biggest cattle herd, but has remained one of the most consistent and reliable beef exporting countries for decades. Stretching across Queensland, New South Wales, the Northern Territory and Western Australia, cattle ranches in Australia are so vast that many of them cover areas larger than an entire city. As of 2024, Australia's total cattle herd stands at around 30 million head, placing it among the top 10 countries in the world by cattle population. This figure is significantly smaller than Brazil, which has the largest cattle herd on the planet with around 190 million head, or the US with nearly 19 million head of cattle. However, what makes Australian cattle unique lies in how they are raised, spending most of their lives outdoors on natural grasslands, with human intervention kept to a minimum, yet applied with remarkable precision. Australian farmers do not raise cattle at random. They carefully select breeds that are heat tolerant and well adapted to hot, dry climates, such as the Brahman, Angus, Hereford, or crossbreeds between European cattle and tropical breeds. These breeds can walk several miles a day in search of water and forage, withstand intense heat, and yet still gain weight consistently. From the breeding stage onwards, farmers plan carefully to reduce costs, minimise risks, and make the most of natural conditions. Everything begins with mother cows. A cow's pregnancy lasts an average of around 283 days, or just over 9 months. Throughout this period, farmers closely monitor the physical condition of the breeding herd. Not every cow is kept for breeding. Only those with strong bone structure, reliable productive performance, and high resistance to disease are carefully selected. Pregnant cows are given a higher energy diet than usual, consisting of high-quality natural pasture, trace minerals, and mineral salt. Their body condition and mobility are checked regularly to ensure that they do not become depleted, especially during prolonged heat waves, a harsh and defining feature of Australia's climate. On many large ranches, a pregnancy rate of 85 to 95% after the breeding season is considered the industry standard. Cows that fail to conceive are typically culled or reassigned for other purposes, ensuring economic efficiency and preventing unnecessary use of valuable grazing resources. Calves are not raised in enclosed barns. They grow up directly on open pasture, nursing from their mothers, moving with the herd, and learning early on how to travel, forage, and adapt to the environment. This approach produces healthier cattle with fewer health issues and a reduced need for antibiotics. For Australian farmers, the more natural the cow, the lower the care costs and more consistent the meat quality over the long term. Shortly after birth, each calf is fitted with an electronic ear tag under the NLIS system, a mandatory traceability system across Australia. This ear tag records the animal's full history, from birthday, breed, to sex and vaccination records, and movements between ranches. As a result, every animal can be transparently traced from pasture all the way to the dinner table. When calves reach around 6 to 8 months of age and weigh an average of 400 to 550 pounds, they are fully weaned. From this point on, young cattle enter a period of rapid growth. Their diet remains primarily based on natural pasture, with additional mineral supplements provided to support bone development and muscle growth. The primary food source for cattle is natural grass. Unlike many industrial operations where cattle are fed corn, soybeans and mixed concentrated feeds, Australian cattle spend most of their lives grazing. Farmers do not cut grass or bring it to the animals. Instead, the cattle are allowed to move freely and graze directly on open pasture. In return, pasture management must be extremely strict. The land is divided into multiple paddocks and cattle are rotated seasonally so that the grass has time to recover. If an area is overgrazed, farmers are willing to leave it empty for months in order to allow the land to rest. Water is a vital factor for survival. In arid regions, farmers build systems of drilled wells, reservoirs and artificial water tanks spaced miles apart. Cattle may walk for hours in the morning just to reach a water source, then spread out again across the pasture. This may sound demanding, but this constant movement helps cattle develop firm muscle and a more evenly distributed layer of fat, key factors in meat quality. One of the biggest challenges of cattle ranching in Australia lies in the sheer scale of its farms. Some operations raise between 10,000 and 50,000 head of cattle, spread across areas covering tens of thousands of acres. With land on such a massive scale, managing the herd cannot rely solely on human labour or traditional livestock farming methods. Alongside farmers, herding dogs such as Kelpies and Australian cattle dogs have become indispensable partners. They can run dozens of kilometres each day, guiding cattle in the right direction, keeping the herd from splitting up and helping move animals to inspection areas when needed. On many ranches, horses and all-terrain vehicles are also used alongside dogs, allowing people to move more quickly across vast and rugged landscapes. Today, technology plays an increasingly important role in managing cattle herds. Drones and satellite data allow farmers to monitor entire ranches from above, helping them quickly detect injured animals, cattle that have strayed from the herd, or pasture areas that are being overgrazed. On extremely large ranches, helicopters are even used to control and move cattle over short periods of time. With the support of technology, Australian farmers can significantly save time and labour while minimising losses throughout the livestock operation. However, outdoor cattle ranching also faces many serious risks. Drought is the greatest enemy. In some years, rainfall drops sharply, leaving pastures dry and barren. This forces farmers to sell off large portions of their herds or transport feed from distant areas at very high costs. The 2018-19 drought period caused Australia's total cattle herd to decline significantly, before recovering again in years with more favourable weather conditions. In addition to harsh natural disasters, predators also pose a constant threat to cattle, especially calves, in their first few months of life. In many of Australia's vast ranching areas, wild dingoes, feral dog hybrids, and even foxes are the most dangerous predators. They typically strike at night or in the early morning, targeting weak calves or cows that have just given birth, as well as individuals that have strayed from the herd. When cattle reaches the age of 18 to 24 months and has an average weight of around 450 to 600 kilograms, they begin to be sorted. Some continue to be raised entirely on grass for the grass-fed beef market, while others are moved to feedlots where they are finished on grain for a short period, usually 90 to 150 days. This increases tenderness and improves marbling in the meat. Before being sent to slaughter, the cattle are gathered at a holding and inspection area. Here they rest for at least 24 hours to reduce stress. If all health indicators are stable, they are then loaded onto specialised livestock trucks for transport to the slaughter facility. This transportation process is strictly regulated, with trucks equipped with proper ventilation, non-slip flooring and appropriate stocking density to ensure animal welfare. Australia is one of the countries with the strictest cattle slaughtering procedures in the world. Meat processing plants must meet AusMeat standards, and many facilities are also certified for USDA or halal exports. Cattle are rendered unconscious using humane stunning methods before processing to minimise pain and stress. Afterward, the meat is rapidly chilled, broken down into cuts such as tenderloin, ribs, shoulder and leg, and then vacuum sealed for preservation. Each cut of meat carries a clear traceability code, allowing consumers to know exactly which farm the cattle came from, how it was raised, and when it was slaughtered. Each year, Australia slaughters around 7 to 8 million head of cattle, producing more than 2 million metric tonnes of beef. The US, Japan, South Korea and China are the largest markets for Australian beef. The United States in particular consistently ranks amongst the top importers of Australian grass-fed beef. The beef industry brings Australia tens of billions of Australian dollars each year, making it one of the most important pillars of the country's agricultural sector. But behind these impressive figures lies decades of experience, persistence, and the remarkable ability of Australian farmers to adapt to a harsh and unforgiving natural environment. In addition to exporting processed beef, Australia is also one of the world's largest exporters of live cattle. Each year, the country exports several 100,000 to nearly 1 million live cattle, mainly beef cattle and breeding stock. Major importing markets include Indonesia, Vietnam, China, Malaysia, and several countries in the Middle East. These cattle are mainly transported by specialised livestock ships. In certain special cases, involving smaller numbers and strict environments for timing or high breeding value, cattle may be transported by air. After arrival, the animals are either further fattened or sent to slaughter in the importing country in order to meet local consumption needs and cultural practices. However, the live cattle export industry is also a subject of significant debate in Australia. This is due to concerns about animal welfare during long-distance transportation. As a result, the Australian government has implemented extremely strict control standards, requiring the monitoring of cattle welfare, transport conditions, and slaughter practices even after the animals have left the Australian territory. This has made live cattle exports one of the most tightly regulated sectors of the country's livestock industry. It is very clear that Australian farmers do not try to force their cattle to grow faster at any cost. Instead, they let nature handle the hardest part, while humans focus on the coordination, supervision, and timely intervention when required. This philosophy is what allows Australia to raise millions of cattle across vast landscapes while still maintaining meat quality that is recognised and valued worldwide. Which stage of Australia's cattle farming process impressed you the most? Leave a comment and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that we can explore more large-scale agricultural stories from around the globe together. Did you know that every year the whole world consumes around 350 million tonnes of meat? Behind the fragrant slices of bacon, the golden sausages, or the rich pate that you eat every day is a closed production system, where every stage is meticulously calculated to create thousands of products from animal meat. Today, let's explore the operations inside those meat processing plants. North America is currently the leading region for bacon consumption, accounting for around 41% of the global market. And nowhere is this clearer than in the US, the country with the largest bacon consumption market in the world. On average, each American eats around 18 pounds of bacon per year. The bacon journey begins with the preliminary processing stage. Hog carcasses are passed through high-temperature flames to remove any remaining hair and create an initial smoky flavour. Once the hair has been processed, workers then proceed to butcher the meat. Parts like the loin, ribs and skin are separated, and the large slabs of meat are further trimmed into regular rectangular blocks. Next is the skin removal step. The meat is placed into a high-temperature oven to soften it, allowing the outer skin to be easily peeled off by a specialised machine in just under 2 seconds, before workers manually inspect it to remove any remaining excess skin or fat. After completing the preliminary processing stage, the meat enters the most important stage, curing. Instead of soaking the meat traditionally, modern factories use a more efficient method of directly injecting the curing solution into the meat fibres by a series of ultra-sharp needles. The meat is left to rest from 30 minutes to 7 days for the flavour to develop. After curing, most commercially produced bacon is heat-treated in a convection oven. Compared to the traditional method, which can take up to 3 days, this system can complete the process in around 6 hours. In the oven, manufacturers sometimes add liquid smoke to help the meat achieve a smoky flavour that everyone loves. Upon leaving the oven, the meat moves to the finishing stage. First, the meat is fully chilled down to below 40 degrees Fahrenheit for easy shaping. The meat blocks are then pressed into moulds and then fed into a high-speed slicer to create thin, uniform slices. Finally, the slices are stacked and vacuum packed, ready for distribution to consumers. The next product is ham. The global ham market is forecasted to continue growing and to reach a size of around $12.8 billion by 2035. Every day, factories receive thousands of fresh ham legs from the slaughterhouses. As soon as they are brought in, each one is inspected and sorted by size. They are then poured into tumbler machines for around 5 minutes to loosen the skin. Trimming machines remove the fat, skin and bone, creating clean blocks of meat ready for the curing step. The solution of salt, sugar and spices is injected directly using specialised equipment to evenly permeate the entire meat fibre. After that, the ham legs are placed into large tumbler containers, where they are gently massaged for several hours to achieve perfect tenderness. Next is the shaping step. The ham is stuffed into a heat-resistant cotton netting. This netting keeps the ham block uniformly round throughout the cooking process. Then the whole product is cooked in a cooking oven or a steam chamber. Some types of ham are smoked to enhance the flavour. Immediately upon leaving the oven, the ham is quickly cooled for around 10 minutes before being moved to a deep freezing area. This step not only prevents bacteria, but also helps the ham become firm enough to pass through the slicer without being damaged. Sliced ham products are cut by a precisely adjusted machine to the required thickness, ensuring that each slice is uniform in appearance and weight. Upon completion of the process, the ham is fed into a vacuum packaging line. This helps to preserve the flavour and texture for up to 3 months of refrigerated storage. Finally, each package is fully labelled with information before being transferred to refrigerated trucks for distribution to retailers. Another popular meat is sausage. According to forecasts, the average person will eat around 4 pounds of sausage meat this year. Global sausage production in 2024 is estimated to reach around 49 million tonnes. To produce this massive quantity of sausage, the manufacturing process begins with cutting porks into blocks. The meat blocks are then fed into a high-capacity grinder that can process up to 2 tonnes per hour. The grinding stage is divided into 2 steps: coarse grinding to create a uniform size, and fine grinding at a speed of 3,000 to 5,000 revolutions per minute to create characteristic elastic mixture. The meat mixture is slightly chilled and then transferred into a vacuum mixer. Here workers add various seasonings such as salt, pepper, sugar, emulsifiers, preservatives, flavour enhancers, and sometimes even egg yolks. When all the ingredients are blended, the meat mixture is ready to be stuffed into casings. Factories use 2 main types of casings: natural casings from animal intestines and artificial casings made from collagen or cellulose. Immediately after, an automatic twisting machine divides the sausage string into equal sections by twisting the casings at fixed intervals, creating the familiar shape we see every day. From here, the sausage enters the cooking stage by steaming or smoking, depending on the product line. After cooking, the sausages must be rapidly cooled to stabilise their texture. Next, they are placed into a drying chamber to remove excess moisture, improve chewiness, and extend shelf life. The final step is packaging and integration into the cold supply chain. Sausages are hermetically sealed, then stored in cold storage at 19 degrees Fahrenheit. This ensures the sausage maintains their freshness and safety until they reach the consumer. The next product is canned crab. The global canned crab market is valued at around $8.18 billion in 2025, and behind that number is an elaborate processing procedure. After each sea voyage, the crabs are quickly transported to containers in the factory. Here they are quality assessed before being sorted by size. Next, the crabs enter the cleaning and thorough washing stage to remove impurities, dirt, and surface bacteria. The crabs are steamed or boiled in large boilers. Once cooked, the crabs are immediately cooled to prevent spoilage and help the meat firm up, which is beneficial for subsequent processing steps. Workers separate the shell parts and extract different types of meat. Due to the small quality of crab meat, The process requires skill and meticulousness to ensure maximum recovery of every fibre of meat. Once the crab meat is up to standard, it is placed into cans. Some facilities add brine or preservative liquid to enhance the flavour. The cans are then thermetically sealed to remove air and prevent contamination. The sealed cans are moved to the sterilisation stage, then cooled to stabilise the structure, flavour and ensure food safety. Once completely cooled, each can is labelled with full information, from production date and expiration date to the ingredients. Finally, they are packed onto cartons and sold to the market. The price for canned crab varies significantly by type, ranging from $6 to $18 a can. The next location is the corned beef factory. From a dish served to medieval soldiers, today it has become an industry worth over 330 million US. The cuts of meat usually selected for corned beef are those with a moderate amount of fat, such as the brisket or round cuts from the hip and thigh. Upon arrival at the factory, the beef is quality checked and carefully trimmed, removing tendons and cartilage before being cut into uniform pieces. After preliminary processing, the beef enters the brining procedure. The brine is made from water, salt, sugar and sodium nitrite, sometimes with added spices. Next, they are tumbled to tenderise in a tumbler, which helps to stabilise and enhance the meat's texture before cooking. When the brining process is complete, the meat is transferred to be cooked. The meat is often slow cooked for several hours by boiling or steaming to tenderise the muscle fibres and lock in all the flavour acquired from the curing process. After cooking and cooling, the meat is shredded, ground or minced into uniform pieces. These meat strands are then inspected to remove any remaining membranes or bone fragments. Next, the beef is minced once more, which helps the product to maintain a smooth texture and a solid shape when canned. A mixer blends these meat strands with beef fat and spices. One cycle can produce up to 2,350 servings of corned beef. The final step is packaging. The corned beef and brine are packed into cans, which then go through a sterilisation and cooling system. The finished cans are labelled with information, stored and made ready for distribution to wholesalers, retailers and consumers worldwide. Next, let's explore the pâté production process. Along with the trend of consuming processed foods, the global pâté market is growing strongly and is forecast to reach $1.2 billion by 2025. The main ingredient for pâté is liver. Upon arrival at the factory, the liver, along with the auxiliary ingredients like fresh cream, butter, vegetables and spices, are thoroughly quality checked. Each liver must weigh between 17 and 24 ounces, have a uniform beige colour and a firm, smooth texture. The liver is then moved to a trimming room maintained at a temperature of 53 degrees Fahrenheit, where skilled workers spend up to 15 minutes to remove every blood vessel, membrane and blemish. Simultaneously, aromatic vegetables are washed and cut into 0.19 inches to ensure even flavour distribution during cooking. When the ingredients are ready, the cooking process begins. The liver is seared at 356 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 4 minutes to caramelise the surface. In parallel, butter is heated to 284 degrees Fahrenheit and used to saute the vegetables for 8 to 10 minutes. This helps release the natural aroma and sweetness of the vegetables. Once the two components are cooked, they're transferred to an industrial mixing system that can process up to 440 pounds per batch, where the mixture is maintained at a stable temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit for smooth fat emulsification. The mixture then passes through a specialised grinding device to ensure the finished product's smoothness. The next step is seasoning. Once the seasonings are blended, the pate is transferred to specialised containers for vacuum mixing, which removes any residual air bubbles. Finally, the pate is aesthetically packaged with a capacity of 3,000 cans per hour, then sterilised at 161 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes before being chilled down to 39 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. The product is transported at a temperature of 39 degrees Fahrenheit. From the time the raw ingredients are selected until the product leaves the factory, the entire process only takes between 72 and 96 hours. While pate is often eaten with bread for breakfast, beef jerky is the most popular afternoon snack. The beef jerky market is growing rapidly, with around 132 million Americans consuming jerky and meat snacks in 2024. Lean cuts such as round steak and flake steak are typically used to make beef jerky. First, the meat is thoroughly cleaned, removing all excess fat and sometimes even processed with a centrifuge to completely remove residual blood and liquid. Next, workers feed the meat into an automatic slicer to create slices of around 0.19 inches thick. These slices are marinated with a spice mixture including salt, black pepper, brown sugar, sodium nitrate, garlic powder, onion powder, and some other flavourings. Some businesses also use a mixer. The meat is soaked for 24 hours to allow the flavours to penetrate deeply into every fibre. Next, the meat is moved to the smoking and drying stage. Workers lay the meat on stainless steel racks mounted on frames, with each frame capable of holding nearly 100 rats. The smokehouse is maintained at a low temperature of around 176 degrees Fahrenheit and operates continuously for over 8 hours, slowly drawing out moisture while imparting a distinctive smoky flavour. During this process, the meat can lose over 75% of its original weight, meaning for around 2.5 pounds of fresh meat, only around 1 pound of finished beef jerky remains. After smoking, optimal flavours can be added to the meat. The most popular varieties include teriyaki, spicy barbecue, and garlic. Once finished, each portion of beef jerky is sealed in airtight packages, which helps to extend the shelf life by up to a year, sometimes even over 14 months without requiring refrigeration. The final product we're discussing today is meatballs. Various types of meat, such as chicken, pork, lamb, beef, and sometimes even fish, are used to produce meatballs. At the factory, the meat is stored at a temperature of around 24 to negative 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit in order to ensure food safety. When the processing begins, these meat blocks are cut into slices using a frozen meat slicer. This facilitates subsequent handling. From here, the sliced meat is transferred to a frozen meat grinder to form small meat particles. Next, the meat mixture is fed into a chopper to be evenly and further reduced in size. Then it is moved to a meat batter machine. Here, high-speed rotary agitators loosen the meat fibres, creating a much smoother and fluffier meat paste. During this process, sugar, salt and pork fat are added for flavour and to aid in binding. Next is the shaping stage. The meat mixture is fed into a meatball former. The mechanism stimulates the manual rolling action, creating uniformly round meatballs at an extremely high speed, achieving from between 100 to 300 meatballs per minute. Immediately upon being shaped, the meatballs fall directly into a pot of hot water for blanching. In water of around 140 to 158 degrees Fahrenheit, the meat takes their initial shape, before being moved to cooking at 167 to 200 degrees in order to kill most bacteria. After cooking, the meatballs are cooled to preserve their full flavour before moving on to the preservation process. Finally, the finished meatballs are brought to the packaging line. Each batch of products is packed into bags, arranged in cartons and prepared for consumption. Depending on market demand, they can be sold immediately as fresh or stored in a freezer. Every slice of bacon, every can of pate, and every small meatball is a result of a series of quality control stages, preservation techniques, and accumulated experience over generations in the trade. The meat processing industry doesn't just create food, it creates jobs, boosts livestock production, and keeps the agricultural supply chain running smoothly. But at the same time, it also raises questions about safety, efficiency, and how we will consume meat in the future. So, in your opinion, what should the meat processing industry prioritise in the next 10 years? Productivity or sustainability? Please share your views.